Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I just want to thank you for joining us this evening to learn about a proposal to convert the Northridge Skateland into housing for our community's unhoused residents. This proposal is very unique because unlike many other projects that you've been hearing about, this project is a public-private partnership between Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission and the Fleming family, who are the owners of the Skateland property, and also the city. It's also unique because the impetus for this project actually comes from the owners of Skateland and their desire to use this property to create a new and lasting legacy of service for our community and our city. I've been hearing from many residents who've been displeased with this project because they do not feel that the city should be taking over this property. I'd like to make it very clear to prevent any further misinformation from being shared that this was a proposal that was brought to me by the Flemings and Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission and not the other way around. I'm joined this evening with Ken Kraft, President and CEO of Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission. For over 10 years, Ken and Hope of the Valley have been serving the unhoused residents of the San Fernando Valley. And Ken is going to later on be sharing a little bit more about the mission's extensive experience as a service provider operating housing for the homeless. Just to give you an overview of what to expect during this webinar, I'm going to provide some background on the current state of homelessness, what we're doing to combat the crisis, and followed up by some information about what is being proposed for this property. And then after Ken speaks, he and I will respond to some questions that we've received from many of you. Finally, I'd like to remind everyone that this presentation is being recorded. So if you missed something, have problems with connectivity, or need to leave early, don't worry. I'll be sharing a link to view this in the next day or so. Additionally, all the questions and answers from today will be compiled into an FAQ sheet, which we'll later post on the CD12 website. And we are actually asking you to share that link with as many people as possible, because we want to make sure that everyone receives the correct information about what this project is and what this project is not. Okay. Homelessness today looks very different from the 80s and 90s, when it was a much more of a localized problem. Today, homelessness is an issue that touches every corner of our city. And according to LAHSA, homelessness in the city of Los Angeles has increased by 16% in the last year to over 41,000 people today. This number is obviously unacceptably high and has nearly doubled in just the last 5 years. As you can see from the graph on the slide, the dark blue line shows the total number of individuals experiencing homelessness from 2015 to 2020. The middle line shows total number of individuals experiencing homelessness who are unsheltered. And then the bottom line shows a total number of individuals who are sheltered in the city. You can see the noticeable increase in the number of housed individuals between 2019 and 2020. And that is because in the last year, the city built more housing than ever before. But because of the number of people falling into homelessness, this has still outpaced the number that were getting housed. That's why we saw a 16% increase in the homelessness citywide. Here in Council District 12, although we have one of the smallest number of unhoused residents in the city, our numbers have greatly increased over the past years. And I think we've all seen this crisis growing every single day in our community. As I'm sure you've all heard or read about in the news, the city is currently involved in ongoing litigation on homelessness. This March, the LA Alliance for Human Rights filed a lawsuit against the city and county of Los Angeles for failure to address the homelessness crisis, and is now being overseen by U.S. District Court Judge David Carter. The city has been engaged in months of negotiations, but let me tell you where we stand today. This past June, we reached a new agreement under the direction of a mediator appointed by Judge Carter. And as part of this agreement, the city must add 6,000 new beds by April 2021, and an additional 700 beds by October of 2021. This is obviously a very ambitious goal. And as I've said over and over again to many of you, we are not going to build our way out of this crisis, but housing is an important component. We need to have places available to move our unhoused residents into. We just we can't have it both ways. We cannot lament the condition of people living on our sidewalks, but also fight opportunities to bring them indoors. As we pursue different solutions to homelessness, we need to make sure that we are engaging with all community stakeholders, inviting questions and understanding concerns. And the more we do, I think the better the final result. This is exactly what we did with the San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission when they were searching for a new location for a family shelter. Before homelessness became the crisis we are experiencing today, our community was working on solutions, and we were doing it by working with the community. We worked with the Rescue Mission to facilitate many conversations with this community. And since it opened in 2012, we've yet to receive a single complaint. This is what we have achieved through working together, and I know we can do it again. I'm sure many of you don't even realize that we have one of the most successful shelters right here in the middle of our community. And that is because of how hard we work to address community concerns up front. There are many reasons today that people end up on the streets, from the cost of housing to substance abuse, domestic violence to mental illness. But no matter the reason, if we focus on symptoms instead of root causes and prevention, we will never get our arms around this crisis. Here in CD12, since I took office a little over a year ago, we've taken some very significant steps to begin addressing some of the pipelines into homelessness. We have our CD12 Angel Fund program, where we've partnered with the Change Reaction to provide immediate financial assistance to families with unexpected emergency expenses. In a city like Los Angeles, where many individuals are severely rent burdened, an unexpected expense such as a medical bill or major car repair can be devastating. So far we've distributed close to $200,000 through this program and provided assistance to dozens of local families who live in CD12 that, due to the unexpected circumstances, suddenly found themselves on the brink of homelessness. We also have our Small Business Relief Fund. This is another partnership we have with the nonprofit, the Change Reaction. And this one is to help small businesses in Council District 12 sort of weather the challenges of COVID-19. Again, like the Angel Fund, I want to stress, these are not taxpayer funds being used. These are all privately raised funds. And so far we've awarded around $600,000 to about 50 small businesses in CD12. For either of these programs, if you know somebody that can need our assistance, please refer them to our website, cd12.org. The third program we started with was our Lunches with Love program. And this is a district-wide fresh meal delivery program for our unhoused residents that we launched with a partnership of Pastor Kathy Huck and About My Father's Business and Lainey Caspy in the Granada Hills Rotary Club. This program is about much more than just delivering food. It's about compassion, and it's about building relationships and not giving up on the people who need us most. In the absence of any mechanism to force people to accept help, reaching out and building trust is sometimes the only tool we have. You may have heard that just last month I presented a proposal for the city to purchase the Travel Lodge in Chatsworth to become a Project Home Key site. As a Home Key site, the Travel Lodge will become interim and eventually permanent supportive housing for our communities unhoused. This is a significant step in our continuing efforts to combat homelessness and provide shelter for our communities unhoused. And the sooner we get to greater compliance in providing housing for our communities unhoused, the sooner the courts will give us more clarity and certainty about what we can and cannot do with regard to keeping our public rights of way clear. So Skateland first opened in Northridge in 1958. And in 1968, the Fleming family took over ownership and operations. Because of their love for this community, the Flemings have always prioritized community involvement through their support of local businesses, civic organizations, many school functions, and I know many of you have been to, church fundraisers and more. The Flemings have been an important partner in our community, contributing to the economic vitality of San Fernando Valley. And today, the Fleming family, still led by their belief that businesses have a responsibility to be involved in the community, they have a new vision for the next chapter of their property. And this is a plan to help combat our community's growing homelessness crisis. While they were unable to join us for this evening's meeting, Mike and Dave Fleming did share with me a statement about their desire to retire, and in doing so, leave a legacy in honor of their parents, Richard and Lorraine, to address the city's growing homelessness crisis. I am truly grateful to the Flemings for all that they have done to give back to our community, and look forward to working with them in the Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission to create, as they said, the finest interim bridge shelter here in the San Fernando Valley. So let me tell you a little bit more about what the proposal is. As many of you know, the building is located on a commercial industrial corridor in Northridge along Parthenia. It's west of Lindley on about 53,000 square foot lot. The existing building is about 22,600 square feet. And as I shared earlier, this project is a public-private partnership between the Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission, the Fleming family, and the city. Hope of the Valley will be the owner and operator, and the city will contribute to the necessary upgrades to make the property suitable for housing. The modifications will primarily be focused on the interior of the building, and the exterior is largely expected to remain unchanged. This facility is not a walk-up shelter and will be able to comfortably house men and women in separate sleeping areas. And additionally, to minimize the barriers to entry, the facility will also be able to accommodate pets and provide storage. Most importantly, this center will provide a whole array of support services because, as we all know, just providing housing is not enough to help people get back on their feet and attain self-sufficiency. This facility will have job training, job placement, mental health and substance abuse services. Service provider staff and security will be on site 24/7 at this location. And once acquired, site improvements could begin as soon as the spring with an estimated completion date of fall 2021. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ken Kraft, the president and CEO of Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission. Ken will tell us more about the Hope of the Valley and their long history serving the Valley's unhoused residents and operating programs like this. And I believe he has a short video to share with us. Ken?
Thank you, Councilman Lee. For those of you who may have never heard of Hope of the Valley, we're relatively young as it relates to health and human services. We are now 11 years old, and we started very humbly in Sun Valley by serving hot meals, and since then we've continued to grow. We now have 9 shelters throughout the San Fernando Valley. We have family shelters, youth shelter, single adult shelters, emergency and interim housing facilities. We also have a navigation center, we have a help center, and we also have a job center. And our commitment is to do anything and everything we can to help people overcome the obstacles and the barriers that are preventing them from being housed. We want to prevent, reduce, and eliminate poverty, hunger, and homelessness. And the way we do that is by offering immediate assistance and long-term solutions. And we've been looking at the West San Fernando Valley for quite some time and thinking, how can we step in and provide greater services for those in need, especially considering the fact that there really was no place for single adults to go. We're very grateful for the San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission and the work that they do with families, but there really wasn't a place for single adults. So we began a search for the last 2 years. We've been trying to identify a building that would be suitable for interim housing, for bridge housing. And every time we try to find a facility, either they weren't interested or the marijuana industry beat us to it because this particular size between 15 and 25,000 is very attractive for grow houses. But yet one of the donors to Hope of the Valley was Dave and Mike Fleming. And I'd gotten to know them very well over the years. And I approached them and I said, is this something you'd ever consider? And this was probably a year and a half ago. And they really weren't interested at that time. And then as the pandemic has continued and they haven't been able to open their doors since March, and they're also approaching retirement, I approached them once again and said, is this something that might be possible? As you can see, the homeless crisis is very real. It continues to grow and we need solutions. And we began to have conversation and entertain the possibility. Then we brought in Councilman John Lee and we just began to dream a little bit about what could happen and how we could truly benefit those that are without homes in CD12. And that's how we got to where we're at today. And then the city came and they took a look at the site and made sure that it was suitable for a bridge home facility, and they determined that it was. And so at this point, Hope of the Valley is very excited about being able to operate this particular location. We do have extensive experience in operating housing and homeless facilities, especially interim housing and bridge housing. Just this year alone, we opened up an 85-bed facility in North Hollywood and a 100-bed facility in Van Nuys. And each of those site locations, we do have full-time security guards at all times. We have monitors that are on site at all times. We have case managers, we have housing navigators, we have mental health experts and professionals. We have drug and alcohol counseling specialists. We have job training, job placement, and life skill training. And we are committed as an organization and agency, not just to give a hand out, but truly to give a hand up, not to enable, but to empower people to change their lives. There are rules. It's not a free-for-all. People cannot just come and do whatever they want. Our goal is to get them to the next step. This is interim housing. I liken it unto a long-distance flight from here to Los Angeles, but there's no direct flight. So you have to stop in Denver, and this is what that is. This is an interim solution because of the fact that there is not enough permanent supportive housing. And while the city is working to build more permanent supportive housing, we have to have additional solutions such as interim housing to get people off the streets, to stabilize them so that they can get the help that they need to get back into the game of life. And so we are thrilled, and we want to be the best community partners we possibly can be. I live in CD12. I have a vested interest in CD12. I want it to be the best community around. And even as we opened up in North Hollywood, there was one time that an owner called us because one individual was playing music a little too loud, and I immediately jumped on it. I gave the community my cell phone. They can call me anytime. We immediately had a meeting. We addressed the problem, so much so that the owner of that business said he wanted to make a donation to Hope of the Valley because he appreciated just how responsive we were. And we'll do the same thing here in CD12. We will do everything we can to be fully engaged with the community, and we will stop any problems before they begin. And we want to make sure that we are helping people, that we are engaging the community, and that we are involved with CD12 in every aspect. So I want to say thank you to the Flemings. I want to say thank you to Councilman John Lee and his staff. I want to say thank you to the community. Because it takes a big step for us, and I say us as a community, to say yes. We will open up our doors, we'll open up our hearts, and we'll open up our facilities to help those in need. And so, Councilman, again, thank you, and we look forward to the partnership going forward.